Good morning, everyone. Hey guys, good Sunday morning. I actually watched my church online. And one of the reasons is, guys, as you can see around me or see in the background, or you can see over in the corner, it's very rainy here. And this kind of motivated me this morning because, we had to put my in-laws up in higher ground in a hotel, and we had to set up some things for our family from a safe and comfortable position. And I want to speak to you from a safe and comfortable position, because I think that's what's wrong with most of us, right? And you noticed I put in there plenty of things about entrepreneurship. Even though we were worried about our safety and our in-laws' safety, mostly them, because how do we get to the elderly if there was an issue or something really bad happened? Say there was a flood. So we want to make sure they're in a good place, higher plane, that kind of thing, have as much food as they humanly need. So we did all of those things from a safe and comfortable position. But the reason why I like saying from a safe and comfortable position is, to be honest with you, when you are financially secure and other people around you aren't, you're actually in a particularly safe and comfortable positions. And I'm sure some of the folks in the west side of Maui, you know where I'm talking about, where the burning is going on. And I've got plenty of friends that send over the pictures of the flyover. And the flyover is from a safe and comfortable position. I've seen them online, and I'm just noticing how the Baja effect, right? What's going on with the hurricane coming up through Baja, and how it's flooding out some areas in the desert. And if you don't know much about Las Vegas, really pretty much we sit on an island in between. And I'm actually out by the mountain. So I had this conversation with my wife earlier today. I said, honestly, other than something sliding down the mountain, but our rock is called Red Rock for a reason, because that's exactly what it is. We're technically in a safe and comfortable position. And I live most of my life from this safe and comfortable position, like many of you do. And what I mean by that is, guys, we kind of live unaffected by the things around us. We can watch the news and we can see situations going on, and we can see the peril of others. But when we see that peril, it doesn't resonate unless it comes to our personal door, because we're personally in a safe and comfortable position. And I was thinking about how when COVID-19 happened, how that aspect of safety and taking care of yourself, it created more of a selfish environment where people wanted to make sure they had their mask and their family was taken care of. But what about your brother and your sister down the street? So when we read those scriptures, we went to church. Hopefully you did. Hopefully you got a good word in today. But what about the Bible tells you to operate from a safe and comfortable position? See, when I read my word, I mean, God tells me to utilize my gifts to the best of my abilities, but not to the best of my abilities for self, but to the best of my abilities for others. And this is where the paganism of religion comes into play, and how we get confused with what we see in the world and what the world teaches us about God versus what's in the divine holy word. Now, I'm not here to challenge your religion or challenge how you think, but I promise you, regardless if you're Jew or Greek, it doesn't teach you to bend things from a safe and comfortable position. And so I really wanted to say this because I was thinking about the widow, Deisha Hargrove, and how I didn't know this lady, how it was just an act of faith, and conscientiousness, just being conscious, and the spirit waking me up that morning and saying, make her husband's, Jason's, name famous. And so now we do pretty much have a date locked in. I got to make sure we get some of the scheduling done. But she said she can be here on October 8th. And I was just like, part of my spirit is just like, Lord, thank you, right? Because had I just gone to sleep like everyone else, or had I just watched the article, or seen it in the news or whatever it was, or, saw it online, and treated Deisha like, hey, you know what? I'm so sorry about what happened to your husband. But to be quite frank with you, sweetie, it's got nothing to do with me and mine. And that's unfortunately the attitude that I feel that most of the world takes on. And it's not really necessarily fully your fault, but they'll only give you a flash in the news. So I need you to think about this. If it were your family or something happened to you, how much time do you think the news would spend talking about your own personal tragedy? That's right. If you blinked your eye, that's about how much time they would actually spend talking about your personal tragedy. And my wife was even making mention when I sent her the pictures that some of my friends sent of the west side of Maui. She said they didn't realize this whole time that they were trapped, had a tragedy broken loose. And it really got me thinking. She said there's thousands of people that aren't even being covered on the news right now, because now the news has moved on to the hurricane. We got some political stuff we need to talk about, and we need to talk about the war in Ukraine. So really, if you're watching the news, you're watching it from a safe and comfortable position. You probably already had your breakfast. Hopefully you've already gone to church, but that's not what God is looking for in this season. Things are not to be viewed from a safe and comfortable position. And I'm going to give you reasons why. At the same time, in the West Coast, we're having a historic hurricane, 1939. Look it up. That's the last time we had this type of hurricane. And I remember going out to the Terranea, and I remember going out to, we were out in Orange County, my wife and I remember looking over and seeing these things from these two areas and thinking to myself, because we went down to one restaurant, one hotel, and that hotel had pictures from the last terrible hurricane that came through. And so, you know, when you really look at something that happened in 1939, you think, well, you know, that's not 100 years ago, but that's a lot of years ago. And so we're okay right now because we're in a safe and comfortable position. And this is kind of like the attitude of the entire world, right? And one of the reasons why we won't grab another brother or sister's hand is it doesn't really impact us now, does it? Until something bad happens to one of our family members. And that's why we don't understand the power of connection, because nothing is waking us up and helping us realize what that is. At the same time, I get texts from people from all over the country about business, okay? Because they haven't put in their minds what it's like. Even though we have a great drainage system, when I should be getting prayer texts from these people, hey, saw on the news, it could be bad there in Vegas. Are you guys okay? I'm getting texts about money, because people don't understand, because they're looking at things from a safe and comfortable position. So this morning, it made me think about the power of Diamond VIP. And if you haven't engaged, I mean, I'm not going to move you. I have nothing that I can do for you, but I will say this. My life has been impacted 29 years ago by Al Heyman simultaneously in that same time, and that's the manager of Floyd Mayweather, right? But not impacted in a way that you would think, oh my God, this is crazy. Brian's life is, you know, he spent a lot of time with Brian. No, just seeing how he operated in business and what he woke us up to. That's the impact that I'm talking about. It made me study the man a lot more from a distance and really pay attention to what's going on. Meanwhile, we had an opportunity to engage with Mr. Santangelo, the Cincinnati Jazz Festival, right? And this is a 29 to 30, almost 30-year relationship. And on from there, you know, my wife and I began to promote shows and do things and have failures and have some successes and experiment with some things. And I was talking to Gifted. I am Gifted. And I was discussing with him, who is a producer, who is a music producer, who sits on the Grammy board, but a great friend, even better than that, and a brother, even more so than that. And we were discussing, Mr. Avon and the power of what he's done in Gifted's life, and the almost 9 years of impact he made on this young man's life. And honestly, when I think about it, it would have had to have been around the time he was 31, which is very impactful because that was around the time that Brian was homeless, right? So I need you to hear me. And then we got to be on the phone with comedian Larry Coupe DeVille. And as we were talking last night, myself, Gifted, and he, about ways that we can impact this society and impact our community here in Las Vegas and bring a program, his program, to the city, and how we can all collaborate and effectively move the needle together. As we were talking to Larry, I realized, because Larry's mentor, we had a moment where we discussed mentors, right? And here Larry had his mentor, James Brown. And I started to think about how he was talking about how Mr. Brown favored him in many cases and would have him roll and ride in the car with him. This is a legend, never to be repeated, right? To have this opportunity, never to be repeated, to have the opportunity to sit with Mr. Avant. But then I thought about Dr. Breakthrough, Stan Harris, and how he's traveled the world with Jim Rohn and how he has that connection with Jim Rohn, and also a legend, never to be repeated. And how in one room, one group, you have the history of the shadows of legends right here in one group. And then my question becomes, what have you done with what you have other than sat from a safe and comfortable position, disengaged and disillusioned, watching the ships pass by? And so Gifted and I got on the phone afterwards with the conversation with Larry, and he began to discuss how, he knows some of the people that Larry knows in Atlanta, right? And so as we got to talking, the real reality is this, guys: every round goes higher. It goes round and round. But to you, from a safe and comfortable position, it will only look like the things that happen on the news. I know very clearly what God told me to do. He told me to build this. He told me to build this with you in mind first. Then he told me at the end, when he would allow me to, which in this case ended up being 3 years, he said, now, Brian, go show them who you are. And as I show you who I am, I wonder if you're able to wake up, because if you're in a safe and comfortable position, much of what we're doing won't even make sense to you. I love you all to life, but I know that the mission is greater than the man. And if I died tomorrow, I want to make sure that I guided someone's hand into the right room with the right people. But the last thing I want to do as I rolled out of my nice, comfortable neighborhood is to be in a safe and comfortable position. There's no earthly reason why I should even know you. There's no earthly reason why I should even really probably know Gifted or Larry, because I was just going to go do me. I'm in the retirement phase. I can look at the golf course and go golfing, and then when this moment of opportunity with these clouds everywhere and the hurricane, take my family to a nice hotel and be unaffected. Almost, it reminds me really of musical chairs when we were kids. How I always felt kind of bad when my friend fell to the floor and I was sitting on a seat. See, I was in a safe and comfortable position. But it takes tragedy for you to realize that none of us are safe and that all of us need one another. And so when we have an opportunity to bring the great, well, I call her great, Jason Hargrove's wife, Deisha, out here, and when we embrace her with love and the hugs of affection, and she can see that God built something, whether she saw it or not, that is really one of the most awesome moments we could humanly have. And I sat and I talked to Dr. Erica, and we had her on the line with Bishop Damian Bennett in Ghana. And he wanted to give her an example of what he had done for other political campaigns. And so he pulled up a lady who is still running for the president of Liberia. And actually, I think he said she may have stopped running, because this is going to be an election in October. And she may very well become vice president because she wanted to make sure she was in position to be vice president. And I need you guys to hear what I'm saying, as I've also brought to you Mr. Katuda and the African diaspora and Aini and all these different people with Angels of Las Vegas. And I want you to see that you've really watched a major movement birth itself right in front of you from a safe and comfortable position. As I get on the phone and I talk to Jessica Hearns, who's already agreed to be a part of Diamond VIP from the perspective as a model, to model for Diamond VIP Health, because I told her, I said, I want to make sure that I leverage that you are a real estate agent. That's important to me too. So now you'll be paid to advertise that you are a real estate agent. Or Dominique Thompson, right? Who's my cousin's cousin, Miss Kentucky. And how, you know, for Dominique, she's never actually made an impact in Las Vegas or the West Coast, to be able to grab her hand and say, hey, look, come on. You know, I remember when you and Tanisha were playing in the backyard while we were shooting basketball. Come on, you're like my cousin. Let's just go ahead and do it and make this happen, since that's an area of opportunity where you are. But yet you've seen this from a safe and comfortable position. Or even Terrence Burney, I see greatness in you, who is also from Detroit, who also agreed to actually come out here when the widow's here, because I want to embrace her with folks from the Midwest, from Detroit, from her city, to put time in. Or how I was talking to Dr. Erica, and the ward that she's over includes the Harrison House, the historic district downtown, where all the African Americans had to sleep when they came to entertain. That included Sammy Davis Jr. and including Mahalia Jackson. One of the reasons why the movie even says you will remember me is she's in the back of the kitchen having to come through the back door because they didn't want her to come through the front, even though the fans were welcoming her out front. And yet you've seen this all born right here in front of your eyes, live in living color, from a safe and comfortable position. So I ask you today, what is it that you're going to do that disrupts your version of safety? What is it you're going to do that says, you know what, I'm really ready to make an impact? We've heard your words, we've seen what you talked about, but now it's time for action. Or even how I was speaking with Mara, and we were talking about doing a Black Business Forum, and we're going to have 3 areas of opportunity. We can make that tech, right? Like Mr. Trenton, and the SMSS token, and even the fact that we're one of the hosts for the event that's coming up, the Breathe Conference. And then he also talked about real estate. We probably will talk about investing, like real estate investing as it relates. And we're bringing these people together. And again, Mara, a gentleman that I didn't know but 5 years ago. He's only been here 5 years. But you sat and watched it all unfold from a safe and comfortable position. My question is, what areas of opportunity, what points of contact have you reached? Because this is growing into not only an entertainment hub, but a mission. This has grown into now an influential impact maker. And it's done it very aggressively right in front of you from a safe and comfortable position. Now I invite you to engage. God bless.